Most giraffe exhibits have a daytime display area, a holding yard, a house, and an adjoining raceway. All enclosures also have a keeper service area, which should be wide enough to accommodate wheelbarrows and hay bins. The size of the yard should suit the amount, age, and sex of the giraffes held, and should be large enough for the giraffes to avoid each other if need be. A yard must be at least 18 metres squared. The ground should be firm and dry with a slope no greater than 40 degrees. Some areas of the exhibit, such as walkways and feeding stations, should be concrete to prevent overgrown hooves. The yard must have fences which can withstand their force when they lean against it, and trees around the exhibit should be non-toxic. All feeding areas must be raised, however water can be at ground level. All giraffe exhibits must have a giraffe house, and is designed based on prevailing weather conditions in the area. The house is used as a separation area, allowing giraffes to be housed in case of quarantine, illness, or calving, and also allows keepers to clean the exhibit. The house should also have an area for transportation crates. Houses can be open or have a series of stalls at least 3 metres by 6 metres, and should be large enough for all giraffes to lie down, get up, and move about easily. The house doors should be high enough to allow movement without ducking, and wide enough to allow the entry of machinery. The internal walls must be smooth and the floor covered with a soft bedding, usually sawdust or straw. Ideally, the house should have an adjoining raceway with scales in the floor, so giraffes can be weighed each day. The raceways must be 2.5 metres wide so giraffes can turn around easily if stressed.
To look after giraffes, keepers require equipment for cleaning the exhibit, preparing food, and to protect their own health. Their cleaning equipment includes rakes, shovels, bins, substrate for bedding, wheelbarrows, secateurs for browse, high pressure and garden hoses, chemicals such as Animal House, Nutrisan and bleach, and ladders. They also need to retrieve and connect any enrichment material such as feeding containers and any chains and locks required to do so. Their food preparation equipment includes kitchen knives, chopping boards, scales, a blender, scissors and a refrigerator. Detergent is also needed for cleaning food buckets. All food buckets are clearly labelled to prevent any cross-contamination with chemicals or waste. Staff members also need to wear the appropriate personal protective equipment when cleaning or preparing food to prevent any ill health. For cleaning, masks and goggles can be worn if dealing with substrate or chemicals to prevent injury to the eyes and lungs. And protective clothing should be worn at all times when outdoors, such as hats, sunscreen, and long clothing and enclosed shoes, to protect the skin. Some PPE is only needed to be used when required, such as wearing earplugs if operating tools or machinery to protect hearing, or gloves when using chemicals or cutting large browse. When preparing food, mesh gloves should be worn to prevent any cuts to the hand, and latex gloves can prevent cross-contamination with food. All PPE should be maintained so it is ready for use at any time and does its job correctly to protect against injury. A giraffe exhibit usually contains an enclosure or yard, a house and a raceway, and each must be maintained adequately each day. At many zoos, giraffes are housed inside overnight, both to protect their health, as giraffes should not be outside in temperatures below 10 degrees Celsius or when there is snow and ice, and to gain easy access to both the giraffes and their exhibit so their daily duties can be performed as efficiently as possible. In a giraffe exhibit, daily tasks include sighting the animals and making sure all animals are present. This also requires good observation skills, as each individual must be identified. General body checks by observing the animal's general condition. Any visible cuts or lumps must be identified, particularly if they were not there the previous day. Any abnormal behaviours, feces, eating or drinking, should be recorded in the daily diary and daily report and monitored. Every day we must provide fresh food at least 2 to 3 metres off the ground for the giraffes. Food must be cut up to an appropriate size for the animal, and make sure water is available at all times within the enclosure. The food kitchen and preparation area must be kept clean before and after utilisation. Cleaning the enclosure is done every day. All giraffes are kept out of the enclosure when cleaning takes place, as they could feel threatened and potentially attack. Giraffes have a lethal kick. Daily cleaning includes raking the enclosure and removing any feces, removing any soil bedding and replacing it, scrubbing and rinsing old food buckets and troughs, and removing any old browse, food and enrichment.
The diet of a giraffe in captivity will slightly vary depending on the country it lives in. Giraffes are herbivores, known as browsers, which means that they like to eat leafy branches such as casuarina, willow, elm, and fig. They particularly enjoy acacia, which has sharp thorns, however their saliva is thick and protects their mouth from its sharp edges and its poisonous chemicals. The survival of giraffes relies heavily upon a high-protein diet, with most of their food containing 15 to 20% protein. A typical diet will contain pellets or giraffe cubes, browse, and lucerne hay. They are also given a small amount of fruit and vegetables such as pear, lettuce, carrot, endive, apples, and beans, but these are generally used as a treat or during training. A giraffe should be provided with a daily food ration of 1.5 to 2% of their body weight. For example, at 1.5%, a giraffe that weighs 1,000 kilos should be fed 15 kilos of food per day. Giraffes are also occasionally given supplements such as vitamin E and mineral salts, either in the form of powder or blocks. All food, except for enrichment, should be hung in the animal's head height.
Giraffes have no unique diseases but are susceptible to most contagious diseases of domestic ruminant livestock. Some of these diseases include leptospirosis, brucellosis, anthrax, and tuberculosis. Once a giraffe's health is hindered, temperature becomes a large problem. Due to having such a large surface area, the giraffe is extremely susceptible to the cold, which in turn creates a need for a large enclosure so the animal can increase its activity to stay warm. Another problem for the giraffe is maintaining its hooves. Factors such as diet and nutrition, as well as choice of substrate, will determine the health of the hooves. If in bad shape, the giraffe can suffer from sprained tendons and arthritis. Keepers perform daily health checkups to ensure these health issues do not occur.
At most zoos, giraffes have been conditioned to enter, stand in, and be confined in a crush, which is a kind of enclosed raceway. While in the crush, they are given tactile conditioning. Tactile conditioning teaches them to be comfortable with stroking on their rump, legs, and underbelly, as well as having their eyes, ears, and mouth checked, and occasionally a hand inserted into them. This conditioning allows vets to easily perform health checks and ultrasounds when necessary. These crushes also contain scales in the floor, so their weight can be checked daily as they walk through. Aside from tactile conditioning, giraffes are also taught basic target training. They are given rewards when their noses touch a specific object, and each giraffe is given their own individual item for familiarization. Giraffes are also encouraged to perform naturally occurring behaviors on cue, such as opening a mouth, stepping in a certain direction, coming when they're called, and lifting a hoof and placing it on a block, which allows hoof trims and leg x-rays to be performed easily. All training is positive and voluntary, so if the giraffe feels stressed at any time, it can easily walk back out. However, training is usually fun for the giraffes as it's seen as enrichment, and they're given lots of food as rewards. Enrichment is given to all animals in a captive environment in order to provide mental and physical stimulation and encourage the display of species-specific behaviour. For giraffes, their primary behaviour in the wild is foraging, so browse is hung in different areas of the exhibit each day. Giraffes spend 50% of the day eating, so most of their enrichment is food-based. Their food is presented in different ways to mentally stimulate them and encourage the use of their long prehensile tongue. Their daily hay is placed in hanging feeders and behind bars, so it is harder to reach. They are also given different types of browse, have pureed vegetables or carrots spread around the exhibit, or offered frozen treats. Their food can also be placed in containers that require manipulation to reach. The most common enrichment is to have a bucket or pipe with holes in it and stuffed with their favourite treats. Giraffes are also given behavioural enrichment through training and environmental enrichment through mixed species exhibits. All enrichment is monitored to ensure they are safe and beneficial for the zoo's individual and collective giraffes. A lack of enrichment results in stereotypical behavioural problems. In giraffes, this includes pacing, head twirling, tongue playing, licking of non-food items, and misplaced sexual behaviour.